Of course. Because, listen, one thing about dictators and tyrants, they want control. And what Messiah did was he decentralized the system. He decentralized it. When you look at governments, just from the fall of humanity up until now, it's always about centralization, control.
Right.
It's all about money at the end of the day, if you will. So you can't talk about the spirit of the supreme ruler living in the hearts of everyone and no need to be able to aggregate at an actual physical building where I can control you. Come on, man. These guys were taking executive power to banish people from the synagogues.
Yeah.
I could have sworn that was God's house. Last time I checked.
That's true.
Let me tell you something. I've been blacklisted. So trust me, I understand. Like, you can't question these leaders, man. Like, it's ruthless. When I was in the world before I became saved, I learned family. I learned community. I learned how to survive. When I came into the institutions, I learned how cold a human being could be. Like, because they would stab you in the back in the name of Jesus and smile all the way. It's like, oh my goodness. Like,
wow.
So my whole point is when you really stop and really consider, it was a threat to the money, okay? Because you're basically saying we no longer need the temple.
Yeah.
Is it any different than what's being reflected right now by the millennials? We don't no longer need these institutions.
Wow.
They're irrelevant. They're obsolete.
Yeah.
What we need is one another.
Right.
The premium is on me and you. Like,
that's true. Now, last question I want to have, major question actually.
Yeah.
Many people make it seem like, oh, millennials are leaving the church. This is a big problem. Who's going to take over in the next few years? Blah, 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 blah. And that's a concern that I've noticed even when I was part of institution, is that a lot of the leaders had questions as to who's going to take our place when we leave. We have these cemented icons, these people that everyone recognized and they love, this poster board. Who's going to take over the institution when they die or retire?
Yeah.
And is that necessarily a bad thing that millennials are leaving? Because they're making it seem like it's bad, but I want to know, is there any good that can come out of the fact that they're no longer wanting to be part of this establishment, this institution?
Yeah, let me tell you something. Like I was saying, is the old saying, make a run for the border. I'm saying it's a good thing that they're leaving the institutions because the institutions, they illegitimately identify themselves as the church. I mean, imagine this whole phenomenon called a doppelganger. They say that if you enter into the world, you see somebody that looks like you, this is inherent hostility. Why? Because that person is, in your mind, perpetrating you. So you're perpetrating something that you are not, which tells me that you're hostile. Like, and so when you talk about the people leaving the institution, there is a great opportunity only because the reasons why they're leaving. One of which is community. One of which is sacrifice. Love. Care for your neighbor. All the things that the gospel actually offers.
Wow.
And so now obviously you're dealing with the reality that people have to be out there, right? To show them the way.
Right.
Like the Messiah says, he says the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. Pray therefore to Yahuwah of the harvest to send more workers out into the field.
Right.
Notice what he said, to send more workers out into the field. Like.
Of course,
And so at the end of the day, because of the reason as to why they're leaving, it's legitimate because the Father offers that to them. They're not being offered through the institutions, but they are. Yahuwah does offer that to humanity to be brought into the family and the household of faith in a real and legitimate way. Where I take responsibility for you, you take responsibility for me. You follow what I'm saying?
Definitely. I mean, in a sense, you see truly that the core values that a lot of millennials seem to desire are inherent in what Messiah taught his followers and in his word is being taught. So we do see a great opportunity for many individuals to return back to the heart of the gospel, the very purpose for why Messiah died. But like you said, they do need guidance, and a lot of them are scattered, and a lot of them are going in other directions for community and answers on issues like homosexuality, abortion, and so forth, and they're not necessarily getting the right guidance.
Of course not.
But the reality is, I believe this generation of millennials is primed for revolution, just like in the time of Messiah.
Yep, and I would say that we are the revolution. You know, we have this tagline that I put, in my spoken word pieces where it's like, we are revolution, like, because the revolution's already happening, if you will.
Right.
Now, you talked about the cemented icons. I wanted to touch on that real quick,
Please
right?
do that, yeah.
So you got guys like, a cemented icon is basically somebody that's the face of a particular brand, if you will. Like, for the brand of Christianity, which is identified as the Reformed theologians. You got guys like John MacArthur. Then you got the seeker-friendly church movement, the face of that is Joel Osteen.
Right.
Then you got the Pentecostal, the apostolic, the speaking in tongues stuff. You got that whole thing with T.D. Jakes and Kenneth Copeland. Like, these are the cemented icons. The problem with cemented icons is very, very simple. How are you going to replace and create that same charismatic effect?
Right.
You're losing them to the tune of 80 to 90%. I'm talking about our demographic. There's not even enough men and women to replace the pre-existing generation.
That's amazing.
So from a money standpoint, the end of the institutions are at hand. The age of the institutions are coming to an end.
Wow.
Just monetarily wise. I mean, we've seen that. We saw the research that came out by 2050. Under 1 billion people will identify themselves as Christians or believers.